of transportation, built our ships, ships of war and ships of peace. Today, the nation calls for timber in tremendous quantities, and out of the forest it still comes. Trees to supply every need, trees of every kind for thousands of uses. Trees to supply the great quantities of pulpwood for our great pulp and paper industry. For our newspapers, our magazines, for the hundreds of uses to which paper is put. Trees for matches and telephone poles, for toothpicks and railroad ties, for furniture, musical instruments, airplanes, ships, and clothing. And trees as well for plastics and chemical products. Why, we depended on trees for the cellulose needed to keep America well supplied with wood for its thousands of uses. Will we have enough for the job? Will America's timber supply hold out? Or is timber like other natural resources, like minerals, gold, for instance? When the miner takes minerals out of the ground, they are gone for all time. They never come back. Happily for tomorrow's timber supply, the lumberman is not like the miner. Where the lumberman works, he will work for generations to come. Because the lumberman is like the farmer. Like the farmer, harvesting his crop with the sure knowledge that in the future other crops will flourish in the same place. He can again be lush and full. He manages it that way. The farmer's wheat kernel begins as a seedling. It is kept from harm, and when it stops growing, it is ready for the harvest. Just like wheat, trees begin as seedling. Given sunlight and room to grow, they do grow. Every year, just like any plant, little trees become a little bigger. Careful management keeps them from harm. And finally, when they are mature, they should be harvested. Or like any other crop, they will lose vitality and become an easy prey of insects and disease. Yes, if not harvested when ready, trees become overripe. Here is a striking example of an overripe forest. A tree crop practically dead, useless, because it was not harvested in time. When nature creates something and it is not utilized, she lets life go out of it. She allows it to die. And yet, trees like this one need never have been wasted. Instead of rotting away in the forest, it might have served a useful purpose for generations to come. It might have been a schoolhouse. It might have been a home. Or it might have been a place of worship. Fortunately, today these things are clearly understood. Today, from the Pacific Northwest all the way to the southern pine country, wherever timber grows, the men in the forest industries know that trees need not be wasted. In every part of the nation, trees are grown as a crop, cared for and harvested as a crop. And today, the forest industries are working to assure ample timber in the future because of modern forest management. Forest management, a simple name for a complicated business. Forest management knows the amazing fertility of good tree-growing areas, knows that the forest can replenish itself. In certain areas, this natural growth is scientifically aided by what is native logging. That means harvesting only mature trees, taking out trees that interfere with the growth of others, and taking out trees that are not healthy. Look at this one. Now, the top is in very bad shape. Insects have attacked it. It had better be harvested now before the damage spreads. That's right. Put a marker on it, mister, so that when the loggers come around, they'll know it's to be removed. The little metal tag will tell them the whole story. So much for that one. Now, how about its neighbor? Perfectly healthy, so we'll leave it there to grow some more. And when the loggers have come and gone, the stumps tell the story of selective logging. The remaining trees and the young growth nearby tell the story of tomorrow's timber crop. In some locations, and with other varieties of trees, instead of selective logging, an entirely sustained yield. Here, spread over 100 square miles, blocks of seed trees have been left, a splendid illustration of forest management. In the cut areas, the trees have been completely harvested, but the other trees remain untouched, so that they may scatter their seed over the harvested land. Quickly takes root and thrives, because nature has a terrific... Forest management not only helps nature grow trees, it also takes over the vital job of fire protection. 25% of all forest fires are started by careless smokers, something to think about. Deliberate firing, another 25%. Yes, there are people who destroy precious timber out of sheer maliciousness. Brush burning, 14%, not making sure that brush fires are actually out. Lightning, 9%. Summer storms keep forest management on the alert. And the remaining 27% come from a variety of causes. But whatever the cause, the fact remains that fire uncontrolled could nullify management's plans for future timber. That is why in managed forests, special effort is made to fires quickly. At the first sign of smoke, they are accurately located by instruments, even at great distances. In managed forests, every blaze is scientifically fought. There is no waiting to organize volunteers as the blaze gains headway. These firefighters, just like city firefighters, are ready to move when the alarm comes in. And although they may be out in the woods, they've got the best equipment for their purposes that science can devise. Tricky mountain roads mean careful driving, but it doesn't take long for these boys to go into action. In fighting fires, forest management applies the principle that a small amount of water brought into play while the fire is still small is better than hundreds of frantic men called out when it's too late. Yes, in managed forests, scientific firefighting does the trick. It's all a question of understanding what to do. How much better this is than the old haphazard way with flames frequently out of control. The forest industries know very well the damage that an uncontrolled fire can cause. Dead waste, mile after mile. And the public, too, must be made to know. It must cooperate with the forest industries and with state and federal agencies. It must learn from scenes like this to avoid carelessness when smoking or camping in wooded areas. When trees are destroyed by fire or by anything else, the forest industries take over another big job, replacement. In nurseries like this, all over the country, are millions of young seedlings destined to become part of tomorrow's timber crop. Into the ground they go. Row after row, mile after mile of strong new growth, sitting in the sunlight, putting on board feet. Skillful forest management and bountiful nature working together. American forest land, under proper management, a vast self-perpetuating resource, the only one of our basic resources that can replenish itself from the earth and from the air. Our forests have always been important. Literally, they have built the nation. But they are doubly important today, for here, before our eyes, is much more than just plain timber. Today, we live on the threshold of a great age of wood, an age in which science will create new and improved ways of using familiar materials. Because trees grow so abundantly, because so much of our land is best suited for the growing of trees, we may confidently expect the forest to furnish mankind with a variety of new and wonderful things, undreamed of services. Even now, we can see the beginning. Plywood for prefabricated housing, as architects and engineers anticipate many uses for it. The aviation industry creates a plane entirely of plywood. perhaps planes built of forest products will be commonplace in the coming age of wood. Chemical science looks to America's forest crop for an unfailing supply of raw materials upon which to perform its miracles of conversion. The chemist has long realized the possibilities of the forest. He has already produced from wood such familiar things as these: formaldehyde, glycerin, creosote, acetone. They are only a hint of what can be done. For instance, through the magic of the laboratory, we have compregnated wood, a new and revolutionary product. These sections of pipe originated in the forest. Perhaps someday they will replace less versatile metals. And the chemist works with sawdust, formerly thrown away, considered waste. From it comes wood flour, and from wood flour can be made all sorts of plastics, flashlights, telephones, objects of every sort. Wood in a fascinating new form, readily molded, lending itself to 1,000 refinements in color and design, helping to make our everyday world easier and more pleasant to live in. Wood helps to make such things as linoleum, molded bowling balls. Even dynamite begins as growing timber. Technicians in the chemical laboratory discovered in the humble woodpile the ingredients for creating a major miracle. After the logs have been broken up, after they have been reduced to millions of little chips, they are ready to be transformed into one of the most useful materials we know. Chemically digested in tremendous vats, the one-time separate chips become masses of wood pulp. And wood pulp, properly treated, becomes a substance with untold possibilities. Cellulose, it's called, derived by chemistry from America's timber crop. Cellulose, the basis for America's far-flung paper industry. And aside from all the familiar forms of paper, here's cellulose doing its job in every home in America. Then there's a fascinating family of synthetics. Who'd ever guess that trees could be made into stuff like this? Cellophane. Of course, we're all familiar with it, but how many of us realize that it has its beginning in the forest? Look at this handsome container, cellulose, and look at the contents. For even fabrics nowadays can stem from cellulose, too. A modern woman can have a complete wardrobe of forest products. From stockings, sheer as the finest silk, to dress and hat. And that's to say nothing of all the varied accessories, gloves, bag, everything. And very pretty, too. Yes, to supply the requirements of today and luxuries tomorrow, science looks to the forests. And when you ask, can America's timber supply hold out? Is there enough timber in America? Can we grow enough trees in the West, in the South, and everywhere else? Forest management answers yes. So keep them coming, these billions and billions of feet of timber that the nation needs. Our supply can hold out because where trees have been harvested, new forests are springing up. Everywhere, new seedlings reach for the sun as forest industries watch over them. Before our eyes, the miracle of management is taking place. Among the stumps of the old crop are rising the planned forests of the future. Managed for rich crops of timber. Timber, vital now, and it will be even more vital in the age of wood that is just ahead. Forest management, American enterprise, watches over it and leaves us with a solemn but thrilling pledge. A few simple words, yet they hold the promise of happiness and prosperity for the generations of Americans that are to come. Timber today, trees for tomorrow.
And the ending was just cut right off. Wow, that was so great, so awe-inspiring. Hi, I'm Skip Elsheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks Lunchtime streaming show. For some reason, my webcam has me blue today. I'm not sure why. That film was made in 1941 sponsored by the American Forest Products. So you can see there was definitely some wartime mentions in there about the importance of lumber for the war effort. And talking about a forest being overripe. It's kind of interesting when we talk about natural resources as commodities that we will exploit for money. Anyways, I collect old 16mm films and show them to folks like you, and that one is a wonderful film. Thank you, Kevin, for the coffee. There's a way to donate. If you like AV Geeks, you can donate and buy us coffee. Also, upcoming event, I keep forgetting to add the 6:30 Central Time, but on Saturday, I'll be doing a show all about commercial air flight in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. A very different look at how elegant air flight was and how it has now become a glorified Greyhound bus with some peanuts or with the smallest pretzels you could ever possibly have. So that's a paid event, and the proceeds go to pay me a little bit, but also to supporting the 1940 Air Terminal Museum, which is an amazing space, and also has a lot of really cool memorabilia from those different time periods. And that's in Houston, Texas, a place that I love because of the people and the things there, but hate because it is really gross there. The temperature and the humidity and the mosquitoes and the driving, it's disgusting. But there are some really I think that chemistry does something to their brains, so they do amazing things there. It's not unlike New Orleans. Anyways, I am getting way off topic. This next film is a film I haven't seen before, and that's one of the great things about this is that I have a telecine right here, which is a film transfer machine, which allows me to just go to the archive, where I'm not at now, go to the archive and walk around the shelves and say, like, pull films off. I'm not even looking at my database. I'm just walking around and like, I don't think I've seen this one, and pulling it. And so this is an example of this, such a film. This is, I don't know why I didn't change the title. I had an hour to do this. What time is it in Tokyo? Is it in Tokyo? Enjoy.
Good morning, friends in North America. This is Gunpei Kawanaka speaking to you from Tokyo, Japan. It's a beautiful day here, and we are glad because this is a special day for you and for us. This program is being relayed by satellite so that what you see on your TV is actually happening this very time. 6 miles away from you in the United States and 10 o'clock in the morning here, but we have a reason for starting this special such an early time. 15. The first day of school for many Japanese children. They're meeting their teacher for the first, and some of them seems to be a little nervous. But they're alright.
They're watching these children who are going to school at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday. Are you wondering why there is such a difference in time? There were clocks. Early man lived by the sun. He went to bed when the sun went down, and he got up when the sun came up. He could tell when it was midday because the sun was at the highest point in the sky. So he learned to keep time by the sun. It was agreed to divide the day into 24 equal parts and to call these parts hours. Men tried several different ways of keeping track of the hours. The best device was something called a clock, and as men traveled to different parts of the world, the idea spread. Navigators and astronomers especially liked the idea, and people all over the world adopted the clock as the best way to keep track of the time of day. Even though today man lives by the clock, that habit of living by the sun is a hard one to break. So now everyone around the world sets the time on their clocks according to where the sun is for them. This is the reason why we have different times around the world. We know that the Earth rotates 360 degrees once every 24 hours. It rotates on its axis from west to east. At this moment, for the people on the dark side of the Earth, it's nighttime. And for the others, it's daytime. It's sunset now for some of the people in North America, late in the afternoon. But it's the start of a new day in Tokyo, early in the morning. If everyone set his clock exactly by the sun, then clocks all around the world would be a little bit different. It takes 24 hours for the Earth to rotate, so there are 24 hours in the day. Since the Earth rotates 360 degrees in this 24 hours, let's divide the world into 24 equal sections by drawing lines from the North Pole to the South Pole. We'll call these sections time zones. Each time zone will be 15 degrees of longitude. Each section, or time zone, will have its own official clock set by the sun.
Yes, it's 8 o'clock in Tokyo, where today some of these children will be going to school for the first time in their lives. We want to visit with them for a while, so you'll better understand what life is like for Japanese children.
If you were to fly to Japan from your hometown, you would probably take a jet plane. Why don't we plan a trip and find out the interesting things that happen to time on the way? We'll start in Montreal, Canada, and we want to fly west to Tokyo, Japan. Our flight is going to make several stops. We'll stop for passengers in Chicago. We'll also stop in Denver. And we'll stop in San Francisco. Now let's think about what happens to time on this trip. If it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we leave Montreal, what time is it in each of the other cities? It's 3 o'clock in Chicago, it's 2 o'clock in Denver, and it's 1 o'clock in San Francisco. Montreal, Chicago, Denver, San Francisco. Each city is 1 hour apart because each city is in a different time zone. What are you going to do about the difference in time? You're going to set your watch back 1 hour for each time zone you enter as you travel west. But what will happen to the length of your day? Will it be longer or shorter? Since you set your watch back, your day will be 3 hours longer going to San Francisco and 10 hours longer going to Tokyo. Why will it be longer? Because when you travel from east to west, you are traveling in the same direction as the sun appears to be moving across the sky, and you will have the sun in sight longer. Actually, as you travel west in a fast jet plane, you are traveling in the opposite direction to the Earth's rotation. This has the effect of keeping the sun in sight longer, and thus lengthens your day. But we've been traveling west all this time. What happens when you travel east, in the opposite direction? Just the opposite happens. The days will be shorter. Why? Because you set your watch 1 hour ahead for each time zone you enter. Now, this creates a real problem on the calendar. Remember when we were watching the television program from Japan? It was Sunday, September 14th, where we were, and at the same time, it was Monday, September 15th in Japan. Let's suppose you and a friend decide to take a trip to Tokyo, and you want to go around the world in opposite directions. You're both going to travel by rocket because it's the fastest way to go. You are going to steer your rocket east over the Atlantic Ocean, and your friend will steer his rocket west over the Pacific Ocean. It's Sunday, September 14th. When you both arrive in Tokyo, the local time is 8 a.m. Your clock went past midnight, so your calendar date changed to Monday, September 15th. Your clocks would be the same, but your calendars would show a different date. In order to keep this from happening, we've put a line on our maps and globes running from north to south through the Pacific Ocean called the International Date Line. It's at 180 degrees of longitude, which is called the 180th meridian. If you cross this line going west, you jump ahead 1 day on the calendar. And if you cross this line traveling east, you jump back 1 day. When your friend flying west crosses the International Date Line, he jumps ahead 1 day, and both of you arrive on the same day and date. Perhaps now you're thinking it would be much easier if people all over the world would set their clocks the same. If we did this, we wouldn't need time zones, and we wouldn't need an international date line. When it's 8 a.m. in one part of the world, it would be 8 a.m. every place in the world. But if you took a trip to a place such as Tokyo, 8 a.m. might be the time you woke up in the morning. But 8 a.m. Tokyo time would be late at night for the Japanese people. So to keep things orderly, maybe we'd better continue to depend on the sun as a guide in how to set our clocks. Perhaps we should keep the time zones and the international date line. And when we cross the date line going west, we'll just have to remember to jump ahead 1 day on the calendar. This happens even if you do your traveling by television. Because right now, for these children, it's 9 o'clock at night on Sunday, September 14th. And at the same time in Japan, it's 12 noon on Monday, September 15th. And time for lunch.
We have paused for a few moments in our busy schedule for the children to have lunch. So, this is sushi. They especially enjoy this. It is made from rice and vegetables. Sometimes seaweed is used.
Yes, that habit of living by the sun is a pretty hard one to break.
That reminds me of my favorite, one of my most recent favorite TV shows, which is called Lunch On, which was shown on NHK, which is the Japanese TV network that is oftentimes shown in the United States with subtitles or with dubbing. Lunch On is a show, 30-minute show dedicated to the Japanese lunch. And they visit different businesses and learn about what they do in these businesses and what they're having for lunch. They also visit restaurants where popular Japanese celebrities who have died and the restaurant owners talk about the dead celebrities' lunch. And they also do this wonderful man on the street thing where they talk to people about what they had for lunch. It's really good. I really very much like it. I discovered it when I was sick and I had a fever. And unfortunately, I don't have cable that has NHK anymore, so I try to catch episodes on YouTube. Such a great show about lunch. Anyways, so that film was great because it really tries to explain time zones and the difficulties associated with time zones and our rotating planet. This next film is about a test car that the Ford Motor Company made and showed off numerous places. And I think they actually made it into a car that they sell. Maybe I'm wrong. Here it is. Enjoy.
Motor Company in Dearborn, Michigan is the research center. A concentration of engineers and stylists each year create the Ford family of fine cars. They also explore new concepts for automotive designs, probe new ideas, and develop very special kinds of research vehicles to prove out new features and new ideas. You are about to see the results of one such research effort. This is the spirit of the wild Mustang, bred into a fine machine. There is only one, but it has spurred inquiry and comment from across the nation and from many other parts of the world. Actually, the Mustang is a research vehicle, conceived and brought to the stage of development testing by a group devoted exclusively to evaluating the feasibility and desirability of new automotive design concepts. Concepts that might be applied to future production cars. Why a sports car? The sports car is far from being new in concept. True. But over the years, it has influenced the development of passenger cars in all categories. And this type of vehicle is particularly suited to the plans of Roy Lund, manager of the Vehicle Concepts Department. He explains that his group, in collaboration with Ford's advanced stylists, have in mind certain features, potentially useful in a variety of models, which could best be developed and proved out in a sports car type vehicle. He is thinking of aerodynamically clean body shapes with improved seating positions.
lighter weight, but stronger body structures. Midship engines with proper cooling and better handling qualities and road holding ability. The other group in the center associated with the creation of this research vehicle was the Advanced Styling Studio, and it was here the functional aerodynamic body was designed. The low-drag, clean front end was shaped, and a safety roll bar was incorporated in the styling concept. The efforts of the styling and engineering groups were given executive support by the president in charge of styling, Jean Bourdonnais, and the vice president in charge of engineering, Herb Misch. Together, these division heads endorsed the project. Having selected a sports car configuration, Roy Lund's group set themselves additional objectives. They would design a high-performance two-seater that would conform to Racing Category 9 of the ruling Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile and to Sports Car Club of America regulations. Because it was purely an experimental car, the engineers chose to use a welded tubular steel space frame, strong and lightweight for the Mustang. The test measurements for the frame were made on an accurate scale model that provided data easier and faster than calculating the many stresses. The model is detailed down to the attachment brackets for the front and rear suspension members. The actual frame was fabricated in California by the custom car builders Troutman and Barnes. In addition to being both lightweight and strong, the space frame can be built quickly. The engine and transmission pose no serious problem. Ford's recently developed V4 engine and 4-speed transaxle combination designed for front-wheel drive in the German Taunus 12M proved a perfect solution. While unsuited for forward mounting because of the Mustang's small frontal area, the engine moved to midships not only made reduced frontal area possible and therefore allowed better aerodynamic form, but made for excellent weight distribution because it could be placed forward of the rear axle with no change in the drivetrain. With modifications, new cam, distributor, higher compression head, intake manifold, valve springs, and carburetors, this engine had excellent performance possibilities. The design of the clean, small frontal area body that would be a two-seater and have a midship engine, of course, fell to styling. And after many preliminary drawings, the final design evolved. Clean entry, stylized roll bar, functional air scoops at the sides, a body that housed and reflected the car's advanced engineering ideas. Of course, the car needed a stylized embellishment to capture the spirit of the Mustang in its crest, and this was rendered first on paper, then in clay and wood, finally in metal. The special body was first developed in clay, starting with a wooden form called an armature, which helps make a faster, lighter, and less expensive model. Special hot modeling clay is pushed and formed over the armature. Hot because when cool, the clay becomes firm and hard, perfect for precise modeling. A special bridge mounted on rails ensures that each contour of the side being modeled is accurately transferred to the other side. Skillful hands and watchful eyes of the stylists do the rest, ensuring that every long, sweeping curve is true to the evolved design. When the clay was completed, it was covered with a special plastic sheeting called Dynoc, which looks like painted metal yet can be applied in a fraction of the time it would take to do a similar job in the paint shop. The American racing colors, white and blue, were chosen for the Mustang. When Herb Misch and Jean Bourdonnais saw the completed clay, they were delighted. With the clay approved, a female plaster mold was formed. The clay was first coated with a parting agent, then with a lime slurry, then covered with Excelsior dipped in plaster. When hard, these plaster molds were removed. The fiberglass body form was made by coating the mold with resin after properly treating the plaster surface, then applying glass cloth over the resin coating. Smoothing the cloth to fit the contours. After several layers of cloth and resin had been laminated, the forms were pushed back into place. When all the forms were joined and the fiberglass and resin laminate had cured, the molds were removed and the accurate fiberglass body form was finished. After being cleaned up and painted, the fiberglass body form was subjected to wind tunnel tests. The tests confirmed the car's clean aerodynamic design and proved the effectiveness of the side intake vents, which are located at high pressure zones in the airstream. Following the wind tunnel tests, the fiberglass body form was sent to Troutman and Barnes. Complete plans, specifications, and all component parts accompanied the car. Roy Lunn checked every part with the builders to ensure that everything would function properly. The body was designed as a semi-unitized construction with the frame, which was now completed. The aluminum tank was installed, as were the one-piece special seats that were designed to be an integral part of the body and frame. The remaining body panels were formed under the watchful eyes of these expert West Coast bodybuilders. And their talented hands and hammers coaxed the aluminum into precise and graceful shapes. When finished, each of the aluminum body panels was carefully fitted to the fiberglass body form to ensure accuracy before they were to be joined and welded to the frame. The completed aluminum body was flown to Dearborn, where the Mustang was finally assembled. First of the advanced features to be installed in the car was the adjustable pedal mechanism, providing for varying sizes of drivers. The brake and clutch master cylinders were mounted on the same unit and connected to the body by flexible hoses. A one-piece competition windshield was put in place. The large, easily visible instruments were mounted in a padded dash with a built-in grab handle. To cool the engine, two special radiators were installed. Each was equipped with a thermostatically controlled fan. And each was placed behind a side intake vent. Including the seats as a part of the body structure was an idea likely to see application in many kinds of future production cars. In addition to strengthening the body, it allowed clean, lightweight seat cushions with built-in headrests that easily could be fixed to the body, and safety belts which readily could be made retractable. Special A-frame independent suspensions were designed for all four wheels. Those in front were equipped with 9.5-inch disc brakes adapted from the Ford console manufactured in England. Combined spring and shock absorber units were installed all round. In the rear, standard 9-inch drums, also from the English console, were fitted. And a new and unique steering assembly was designed, which has a rack and pinion steering gear, a flexible shaft, and 3 inches of fore and aft adjustment. The retractable headlights, spare tire, battery, and gas tank are up front. Access to both front and rear compartments was provided. Front hinge doors on either side. Exhausts through the rear, and all necessary lights were provided. And so the car was completed, ready for testing. Ford's top executives reflected their surprise and delight in seeing this research car put through its paces for the first time. There was good reason for their interest and pleasure. Its advanced features made a lot of sense. They proved completely functional, added styling appeal, and could be applied to many of the company's future products. Although advanced features, such as those incorporated in this development, are usually kept as company secrets for competitive reasons, Ford recognized that this particular research vehicle, being in sports car configuration, would have wide public appeal. The decision was made, therefore, to show the car publicly as a candid example of advanced automotive engineering and styling, an example of the exciting kinds of projects in which Ford automotive engineers and stylists are engaged. Sterling Moss greeted the crowd at the premiere showing of the Mustang at Watkins Glen, New York, on a leisurely lap before the start of the United States Grand Prix. Car and Driver magazine was one of the first of the many publications to recognize the engineering and performance potential of the Mustang, and its technical editor, Jan Norby, was invited to test the car. Roy Lunn went along to answer questions.
I would have liked some kind of support for my accelerator foot.
This is the thing we're going to do. We're going to make the...
But the response is beautiful.
The other magazines shared Jan's enthusiasm.
The Mustang is a V4 for fun.
The car is a real eye-catcher, and the far-out features are all functional.
The Mustang is a very serious engineering study.
Its fresh new appearance, its unique styling, generated immediate interest wherever it was seen. Here at the University of Miami, the Mustang pulls up in front of the Student Union and is engulfed by students who are seeing the car for the first time. As everywhere, they are full of questions, want to know all about a car they had only heard about. The features of the car are explained, starting with the twin exhausts that go through the rear body shell. the twin engine ventilating grills that permit hot air to leave the engine compartment, and the twin horizontal rear lights that house left and right turn indicators and stoplights. The Mustang emblem is also the latch that releases the rear deck lid. Derived from the new German Ford Taunus 12M engine, this road version has a single carburetor, high-speed cams, 11:1 compression ratio, 60-degree V4 block of 92 cubic inches, alternator, twin radiators, 4-speed synchromesh transmission and transaxle with independent suspension and drum brakes. The radiator scoops are located at high pressure areas on the body. For normal operation, the cooling is by ram effect. Otherwise, the thermostatically controlled fans come into play. The cockpit has a complete set of color-coded instruments in its padded dash, including tachometer, oil pressure gauge, ammeter, and water temperature indicator. The steering wheel has 3 inches of fore and aft adjustment. The pedals are adjustable and can be moved back and forth 4 inches by means of an easily accessible handle. The gear shift lever is located on the central console and operates 4 fully synchromesh forward gears and 1 reverse. The handbrake of the fly-off type. Horn, choke, and directional signal control are also on the console. The wheels are magnesium to reduce unsprung weight, and the tires, 550/13s. The spare wheel and tire are up front, where their weight will do the most good. As are the floor-mounted battery, the rack and pinion steering gear, 13-gallon fuel tank with flip cap, and horns on either side. The master brake cylinders are a part of the movable pedal unit and move with it. For the cleanest possible front entry, the headlights swing through 180 degrees for night, a legal height above the road. Go flush for daylight driving. Similarly, the license plate can be flipped down for normal driving or folded away for racing. As a sports car, the Mustang demonstrated excellent roadability on the closed-circuit road course at Daytona Beach. Its fully adjustable suspension was responsible for its optimum road handling and road holding characteristics. On other road courses, the car further demonstrated its versatility. And on the high-speed oval, it proved capable of impressive performance for a car with piston displacement of 1.5 liters, approximately 92 cubic inches. Here at the Daytona Speedway, Bill Frank watches the Mustang go by, clocked at 120 miles per hour at a comfortable 6,100 RPM. Yes, the Mustang turned out to be the kind of car that dreams are made of. but a dream it must remain. For this car was created by engineers and stylists only to prove out the feasibility and desirability of certain new design features. A number of the advanced features represented in the Mustang, along with its performance and handling characteristics, proved out remarkably well. Although there are no plans to bring the car into production, you undoubtedly will see some of its features incorporated in other cars we do bring into the market. That was the purpose of the Mustang project, a pioneering experimental development by Ford engineers and stylists.
Where dreams still come true, and where a lovable loser, a smart sports writer, a mean gangster, a spoiled society lady, and an unemployed ex-champ all have their luck changed the day they meet Matilda.
I don't believe it. I got a kangaroo. A boxing kangaroo with 6 straight knockouts.
You mean the other boy's strong, huh?
He's an animal. You cut off the tail of a kangaroo, and what happens?
The championship fight is on in Reno. Congratulations.
For the first time in my life, you made me a winner, too. Thanks.
And you'll thank Matilda for bringing out the winner in us all. He even has Debbie and Pat Boone singing out. Matilda, what a knockout. Rated G.
Why is this couple under attack? Slithis. In the classic tradition of the creature from the Black Lagoon, and the thing comes now. Slithis. Slithis. A horror so outrageous that no one believed. Slithis. Slithis. Rated PG.
'72, '74, Hansel and Gretel.
The Bewitched Gingerbread Children. The Sandman. Gingy the Bear and Susie the Goose. And that wonderfully wicked witch, Rosina Ruby Lips. You'll see them all as the most enchanting fairy tale you have ever known comes true in Hansel and Gretel, rated G.
That was a weird kind of audio, visual thing at the end there. Yeah, so these were trailers that I've got from somebody that was a local collector who basically his mom said, get these out of the house. And so he gave them to me. That's oftentimes what happens is somebody's mom or wife or says, get these out of the garage, get these out of the basement, get these out of the closet. And schools, same thing. Get these out of this room because we're going to use it for something else. And there I am with my my arms stretched out accepting all these films. So there you go. Thanks everybody for tuning in today. It's kind of a weird mixed bag of stuff, but whatever. So the EMEA film conference is going on right now, and so I've been off and on watching stuff, and I'm presenting. Unfortunately, you can't see it because it's a paid thing, but I will be doing a EMEA tweet show presentation at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, and one at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. So the 11 one is for my EMEA folks, and 1 p.m. is for my other folks. But it doesn't matter because it's just going to be a lot of content. The EMEA one's probably going to be stuff that you've seen before if you've been watching. So it's going to be film and video related because that's what we are as moving image archivists. And so it's about moving images. The 1 p.m. is just going to be a regular show. Of course, if for some reason I have jury duty, then this will all be pre-recorded, which will be very frustrating. But I know I'm supposed to call tonight. They haven't been very communicative. But anyways, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for the coffee. And so a way you can reward us is buying us coffee. You can subscribe and like and get notifications and follow and share and all that stuff. That's very much appreciated. Upcoming event is 6:30 Central Standard Time on Saturday, and we'll be watching a bunch of films about commercial air flight. Some of the things I've shown on this streaming show, and some will be new stuff that you haven't seen. So hopefully you can join that one. That is a paid event as well, but it's going to a good cause. You can also go to avgeeks.com and say hi and see other stuff that we put online. But thanks so much for joining me today, and we will see you again very, very soon. Here's what was in a film can that I found. It tells us to please rewind and love each other, and there's a peace sign and a smiley face with eyelashes. Probably put in there by a bored student who was working in the library, and it lives on. So everybody take care, and I will see you tomorrow in theory. So everybody have a good rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk soon. Goodbye.